The last thing I want to ask you about is mission alignment. And this is something CAPC's been harping on for decades. That is something that we all know in our bones when we're taking care of patients and families, right? If we don't know what's important to the patient and the family, how can we possibly come up with a care plan, right? You have to start with what the object of all this attention and care and spending and intervention wants, right? It's so obvious and yet often honored in the breach. So the survival of palliative care programs really is critically dependent on doing the same thing with the leadership of the organization for whom you work. That is finding out what's most important to them, finding out what keeps them awake at night, figuring out how you and your team and your service can help them achieve their goals. So talk to me a bit about how you use that concept.
I think that in my needs assessment, when I was meeting with all of my stakeholders, that was my biggest question, which is, I know what's important to me in my program, but what's important to you and your program? And then that kind of disseminated up to the hospital leadership. I think we always assume that economics, and I think that this was a time when our hospital was losing money, and programs were getting cut. And so, I was always, what kept me up at night was that we were going to be on the chopping block too, especially around COVID-19, when for 2 weeks there were no consults coming in. But I think it was a false assumption. And so I think it is worth remembering that just like when we walk into difficult family meetings, you can't walk in with any assumptions. You can't make assumptions when it comes to the senior leadership and administration. You can't assume that it's all about the bottom line. They really do care about good patient care. They love great, social media shout outs. They love just knowing that they're providing good care. And I think that, at least at my hospital, they really do care about providing good patient care. And so it's good to have a business plan that underlines the finances of the program. But I think having more stories about how we provide good care, how we change the course of people's lives at the most critical moments. I just sort of assumed they knew what palliative care did. And that's not an assumption you should make. So bring more of those stories. They really love hearing personal stories. So now my team and I know every time we are involved in a really, great case that we talk about all the time or really sticks with us, we write it down so that the next time I have to present to clinical counsel or the board of directors, I'm going to have a slide dedicated to this patient and family story. And I think that's really what strikes them. And that's when they can then connect the dots of, yes, they save us money. Yes, palliative care is important, but this is why.
It's so interesting. You're making such a critical point that our colleagues in the C-suite are human, just like us, and they're working in healthcare not to make money, but to help people, just like us. And they're there because of their commitment to the mission. And right. That it's really important to keep that in mind, and not to assume that they only care about money.
Right.
It's because it's A, it's incorrect, B, it's insulting, and you kind of lose your best entree, which is what is the mission of healthcare and the health professionals, because everyone working there tells themselves a story that they're doing it to help people, and you can make that tangible and concrete and real with the stories. So never walk in with just data, always walk in, and never walk in with just stories either.
Yes, you need a good combination of both. Yes.
You need both. And I think that's the thing to remember.